Greetings from the Mirage Desert. It is Final Fantasy Reconstructed. Last time we picked up the chime from Lefian, also that fourth ribbon, possibly the fourth ribbon. The third we've picked up, maybe a fourth hanging out here in the Mirage Tower or Sky Palace. As we enter the Mirage Tower, we come through a strange door transition there. Looks like we come in behind that door, and then we walk in through the door twice. We get a door opening and closing animation and sound effect there. I'm not sure if that's intentional. The Mirage Tower is much more technological. I believe there are some computer-y techno-looking things in the NES version of this Mirage Tower. The outside has certainly been changed. It looks less like a beehive spiral shape, and it looks a little more technological here. Also, the battle background, which we haven't talked about very much in this game, the battle backgrounds, I believe, have been looked at and changed a little bit. They're kind of a minor part of this game because they are just kind of a banner, like a social media Twitter banner or something at the top of your screen. You're still always fighting on a black void canvas there, but you get a little above you get a sense of where you are, if it's a cave or a castle or the swamp or the forest or whatever. But I believe that one has had a touch-up here, and I think the Mirage Tower might have its own, because I think the Mirage Tower and the Sky Palace have a couple of different ones. Anyway, the Mirage Tower in the NES version has a similar layout to this one. I walked all the way around this floor, maybe unnecessarily, but I am trying to explore. There's another ruby bracelet, but it's not actually a step up for anybody, because the diamond bracelet, I think, is a step up for the white mage there. I am just going to confirm before I decide to abandon the ruby, but I don't want to drop anything important. I don't want to get rid of anything important. So we will go back to what we had there, the diamond, which I think the diamond bracelet is the same as the opal bracelet. I think it's just a retranslation. What does the robot say? Are you the master? Okay, I believe that's similar to what a robot you meet says. But it has been a little while since I've played through the NES version. I've been so busy playing ROM hacks of this game that it's been a while since I've actually played the vanilla version. The Aegis Shield is an important piece of equipment that is hanging out here in the Mirage Tower. So it is going to be worth it for me to drop that Ice Shield. As much as it pains me, the Aegis Shield will protect me from the Poison Stone element, which is a really neat kind of narrative thing about this game, because the Aegis Shield is comes from Greek mythology, and I think it's the shield that protected the Greek hero from the Medusa. I believe it's a reference to that. So the fact that it protects you against the element that poison and stone share in this game, which is kind of a baffling thing. They don't have their they don't each have their own elements, but poison and stone both share an element here, and the Aegis Shield does protect from that. Now, also, if the Mirage Tower in this version does mirror the Mirage Tower in the NES version, there will be a dragon armor in here for me that will protect me from fire, ice, lightning, because that kind of starts the story. Oh, so we have a little double door opening and closing there. I'm not sure if you noticed that. Back that up if you need to. Looked like there was a door opening that we came through, and then also another door sprite, a couple of tiles to the left and a couple tiles up from the main door of this floor. So that's just a little graphical hiccup that may need to be addressed. This is a beta version, by the way, of this hack, so this is not the complete and final version of this game. This is kind of a pre-release preview Let's Play. That's a way for me to share an upcoming ROM hack that we all should be excited about the release of, and also as a way for me to give some pre-release feedback to the author of this hack. If you want to read more about this as of yet still in development patch, check the description below. And if you're watching this maybe after the year 2016, do check to see if the final version has been released. And look for the full README or the full guide for this game, which I believe is part of the plan. for the future of this one, and also look for a future Let's Play series that I would like to do when the final version of this game is released. Because I have had a fun time with the beta version here. This layout of chests that we can't see during the battle, but this layout of chests does mirror what you can see in the Mirage Tower in the NES version. This kind of chests laid out this way with four and four, making kind of a half diamond shape there. The Thor Hammer is a notable piece. There's a curious little orb there in the middle of this formation. And you can see I'm starting to get to where I'm having too many weapons even, and your armor gets real tight. When you hit the Mirage Tower, your armor spaces get really tight. Thor Hammer casts Bolt 2, and it's one that the White Mage can also equip, which is nice. Not that the White Mage will ever be doing much attacking. And see, even it's a small upgrade from the Cleric Hammer. The Cleric Hammer was actually a really valuable weapon when I first found it, both as an attacking weapon and for casting Harm 1 for free. There's the Sun Sword. That's an upgrade, I believe, from the Defense. The Defense Sword casts Ruse on the caster, so it's a self-targeting only, which boosts your evasion. It's not all that useful at this part of the game, so I'm checking 53 and 106. 53 and 106 for my attack and my attack percent. But the Ruse spell, it's not all that useful at this point in the game, because the White Mage can cast Invis 2. Soon, hopefully, we'll be getting the white shirt or the white robe, which will allow us to cast infinite Invis 2 spells. So the fighter won't have to be wasting its turn casting a self-targeting only spell that slightly boosts its evade. And again, when we're talking about boss battles in this game, you're generally not, it's not worth it to build up your defenses unless you do have characters like that. So there's a reference to the Warp Cube, which I need to get from the waterfall, which I've already gotten from the waterfall. Here, there's another graphical hiccup there. I think there's a door sprite out there in the clouds. I do love the cloud background there. It makes us appear that we're outdoors, which I think is different. There's a blue D, but I've already fought a blue D back in the basement of Leffian. You can see the last video for that. And I think that was just a random battle. Possibly it was a trap square. This is a sprite-initiated encounter. But I do love that the background changes to a cloud background, because I think in the Mirage Tower in the NES version, I don't know if it's actually made clear that you come out to the roof of the tower to warp up to the Sky Palace. I think you're just kind of on the top floor. So this is pretty cool. You're on the roof of the Mirage Tower, and you need the Warp Cube to have it send you up into the Sky Palace, which is in space, maybe? I don't know if it's ever really made clear in the NES vanilla version of this game if you're actually in outer space or just very high up in the air. But here, we appear to not be in outer space. It appears we're in the clouds here, so we are just higher up. So the Mirage Tower gets us high, and then we warp up to where we're higher. We're in the clouds, but we're not quite in outer space. We don't have the black void background that the Sky Palace does. I'm going to try to run away from all the battles I can. That's the Bane Sword, and that's where the Bane Sword does live, in the Sky Palace. The Bane Sword hangs out down there. I don't know how much I'll be using the Bane Sword, because again, it's a nice all-targeting instant death spell, which is great if you have big groups of enemies, but it's not all that accurate. It's not remarkably accurate, and a lot of the tougher enemies that I'm going to be fighting are going to have a pretty good resistance to it anyway. So I'm just testing to see if it still does what it does, and it certainly is casting something, which I'm assuming it's the spell Bane, which just is an all-targeting poison stone elemental instant death spell. But a lot of things will have resistance to it, or they will have high magic resistance anyway, so it'll be harder to land it. Here's an Evil Eye, so it's not the Death Eye. This is the Evil Eye, which I believe is the same as the eye we fought at the bottom of the Ice Cave. So it's another appearance of the eye. With 3 ribbons, though, the eye battle becomes a lot less threatening because it has a hard time landing its instant death spells. With pro rings and 3 ribbons, it's not quite as dangerous. So there's a pro ring. Don't need that, though. And I'm just seeing what's in here. I would like that heal helmet. I would like to pick up that heal helmet. Because you do kind of want max healing in the final dungeon, although in this particular hack, it might not be as necessary because the heal staff, and I'm assuming the heal helmet, I don't think I've tried it yet in this one, seem to have been buffed to where they're casting the heal 2 spell rather than the heal 1 spell. That's just based on observing how much hit points I've recovered using the heal staff. It seems to be much more, which kind of really really eases, I should say, the difficulty curve going through these dungeons to get that much free healing. It's really quite notable. This is kind of a star-shaped room, and there are notable treasures, excuse me, on several of the arms. This lower right arm, I believe, in the NES version has the white robe and the black robe, although they look like shirts in the NES version. Here they're made to look a little bit more like a robe. And I believe they may even be called white shirt and black shirt in the old instruction manual. I think because when the English American side was writing the FAQ, they're like, well, what is this item? It looks like a shirt, so I guess we'll call it the white shirt. Or maybe I'm making that up. It has been a few years since I've actually had my hands on the original Final Fantasy manual and the walkthrough of half the game that came with the US NES release. Here I'm just checking to see what kind of defense I get from the black robe as compared to the ruby ring. And so luckily the black mage can equip that. So I don't have to have that, sorry, not the ruby ring, the ruby bracelet. And it actually is pretty it's pretty comparable. So it was not all that big a loss in dropping that. And there you can get something that can happen. Your black mage can get hit a couple times in a row with big damage and just get totally crushed. Black mage is really, in all honesty, one of the weaker classes in this game, and it's one of the hackers' biggest challenges when they want to make a ROM hack of this game. I believe this takes us up to the next floor, so I'm going to just confirm that and pop back down because there are still some treasures on here I'd like to explore. This is the floor that, in the NES version, I believe, has that extra ribbon hanging out. And I also want to make sure I do not miss the adamant item, which will let me go back to the Dwarf Cave and trade it in for the Excalibur Sword, which is the best knight-only sword in the game. So that will be notable, and I want to make sure I can grab that. The enemies here don't seem to be all that threatening, which is very nice. I seem to be at an appropriate level to handle them, although I'm mostly running from these upper level enemies. I do need a few levels, but I don't want to be dealing with statuses and things, and some of these enemies do hit you with stuff like that. There's the adamant. So I'm going to hold on to that until I can go back to the Dwarf Cave and give that to Smith the Blacksmith. Yes, the very creatively named Smith the Blacksmith of the dwarves. So we got some money. Not very useful to me at this point in the game. I believe I have all the spells I'm going to need. So here, instead of just Medusa and Green Medusa, we actually get Gorgon as the enemy name. Notable thing about that. Gorgon is the name of the monster, the generic name for the monster. Medusa was a specific Gorgon. Okay, was an individual who was turned into a Gorgon, I think, by probably one of the angry Greek gods. So Medusa was a beautiful woman who, according to the legend, was turned into a Gorgon. There's our other ribbon. And I remember looking that up when I was playing the ZZ version. I was streaming that live, and someone checked because in the ZZ version, I think Zonk Miles changed the name of the Green Medusa to Stheno, Stheno. I had not heard of that, nor had the folks I was chatting with on the live stream, so someone looked it up, and we saw that Stheno was Medusa's sister in her human form. And I believe she may also have been turned into a Gorgon. So that was a very... I'd have to double-check my mythology on that one, but that was a very cool reference. So here we have Medusa and Gorgon. Anyway, we've got our fourth ribbon. So there's another door glitch there. You look to the left of where I'm standing here. Oh, and it went away when I went into the menu. This is so it's a monitor. You can see the entire world of four forces are flowing together into the Temple of Fiends, which is the center of the four altars, the way the map is drawn out. In the NES version, you're looking down from the sky, from outer space, basically, I think is where you're supposed to be. This was a very cool addition in that it's a monitor. It's actually an electric monitor showing a projection of the Earth, which is a very, very cool narrative change, and it really cranks up the sci-fi element of this Sky Palace. So it starts the proud tradition of Final Fantasy going from kind of high fantasy to hard sci-fi. So Sasuke's katana there. So I'm just going to take a look at Sasuke's katana. I'm guessing that is going to be a ninja weapon, but I do want to take a look at that. And yes, I'm looking at in the NES version, the vanilla version. It's not called Sasuke; it's just called Katana. It's just called Katana, and it is a ninja-only weapon. I'm guessing that it's similar here. Katana has a nice damage rating of 30, and a good accuracy rating. Yeah, 33, accuracy of 35, and crit of 30, which is very high. It's the same as the Vorpal, so it's the highest crit rate, tied for the highest crit rate among anything. So I'm assuming that in this one the Sasuke's katana is also very notable. In terms of crit rate, and then the high, that 35 accuracy will give you basically gives you another hit. That's the pro cape. That's the pro cape, the protect cape. Not terribly notable piece of armor. Doesn't really give you protection from anything. It's just a nice piece of armor. Mages can wear it. So it's got 8 absorb, which is nice for what it is, but by this time we want all of our equipment to have a secondary ability. We want to have everything to advance our cause a little bit more than just giving us more armor. Since armor spots are at such a premium, you don't really have an inventory for armor. It's you basically all the armor that you have in this game has to be what you're wearing, which reflects the D&D element of this game a lot more. Is your limited inventory. You don't have in a D&D game. You often don't have enough carrying encumbrance to hang around with a bunch of armor that you're not going to be wearing. So there's another door glitch in this one on the right side there. I'm just checking that out. So you can walk on the tile and it doesn't appear to go away. This is the big maze floor. Although if this is laid out as it is in the NES version, if you just go either left up, or right down, you'll hit the door. But this is it's a repeating floor, so it's one of those you can lap yourself, you can loop around. So if you just keep going to the left, you'll just keep walking all the way around this room. It's similar to the upper floor of the Sky Palace does that in the NES version. You have to kind of wrap yourself around to get to where the slab is. Kind of have to wrap the screen around, but it's a looping floor. And it looks to be set up similarly to the way it's set up in the NES version. And in the NES version, there are no treasure chests, I believe, on this floor. It is just the staircase or the warp door or whatever it is that brings you up to this floor from the previous floor, and then the door that brings you to the next floor. I believe are the only two things on this floor, and it's set up as a big grid, just like a big matrix of squares. So I'm fairly sure that that I'm good here. I just need to make sure that in these battles, I take note of which direction I need to go, or which direction I was heading. Dazzle, that's, yep, that can, I think that can stun you. Looks like the heal helmet, by the way, I should mention, also has been buffed. Watching that heal helmet cure that fighter for a pretty nice chunk. Alright, here's the top floor. There's another door glitch hanging out there. And this bridge is probably where I could run into WarMECH, so I have to be very careful. As much as I'd like to see what WarMECH looks like in this hack, to see what changes have been made, if any, I would rather run up to TIAMAT here, and I think we're clear of WarMECH territory. I'd rather see TIAMAT and not get taken out by WarMECH's nuke, because WarMECH can be significantly harder than TIAMAT, and indeed, the final boss, the final Chaos boss. WarMECH can just do massive damage every single turn that even a white mage with Cure 4 just can't keep up with. If WarMECH just goes nuclear all the time, it's incredible what they can do to you. So I'm just checking my equipment. But with the ribbons, it's going to be very, very, very well protected against everything TIAMAT can do. I believe TIAMAT does say she will put an end to your adventure. And by the way, I should say, you don't often hear the end of that music, of this technological palace. You don't often hear the end of that music. One of the notable things in this is that they've taken away the menu music. And so the menu music continues to play either the world map or dungeon music that you are listening to. And I think that's really cool, not only because that menu music is not all that exciting, but it lets you hear more of those songs, because in this one, the songs start over all the time. I don't know if you've noticed, if you've played this game enough, you've noticed for sure. When you come out of a battle, it starts the map music over at the beginning. When you come out of your menu, it starts the map music over at the beginning. When you open a treasure chest, it starts the menu over at the beginning, or open a dialogue box. So here's the white shirt, or the white robe, giving me Invis 2. But in this one, it is notable that that music can continue, so you can actually hear your music all the way through if you're doing some significant menuing. So I'm hasting up my fighters. You can see 10 hits there from my master. This poison attack and the thunder attack, both, as you can see, elemental all-targeting damage spells, and they're doing, because of my ribbons, they're doing about a quarter of what they normally would do. So when you see those wows still doing 40 and 50 to all characters, that's pretty notable. Imagine that times 4, or up to about times 4. Also notice my fighter there got a number of hits for like 17 damage, like 6 hits for 17 damage, something like that. That's, again, a case of no crits. So TIAMAT has a very high absorb rating, 9 hits for 103, and when you see that, you're going to see critical hit. That means at least one of those, and probably more, went critical. And criticals in this game kind of give you another damage roll after your first damage roll, checking for armor without checking armor. So it kind of lets you get around armor of these kinds of enemies. And that's a very simple way to put it. I could explain that better, but it lets you kind of get around the armor bonus of these monsters. And so the more hits you get, the more chances you have for a crit. And obviously the higher your crit percent, the more chance each one of those has to go critical. So you see my fighter there is not getting very many critical hits, 7 hits for, again, just a few damage. That means that none of those hits went critical, and so they're just kind of barely getting over the absorb rating, because the absorb rating gets taken out of each hit in this one. So when you get a point of absorb, 6 hits for 120. Okay, so that I didn't see any critical flashes there, but more of those hits got higher over the absorb rating of TIAMAT there. That's why your damage is so wildly variable in this game, both in magic and in physical attacks. Your damage just has such a wide range of what it can do when it comes to critical hits, and for the mages, whether or not your spells double. So you roll within a range, and then your spell can double, and then your physical fighters can get 0 to 9 critical hits. So 10 hits for 281, you know, probably a few of those went critical. It doesn't tell you how many or which ones went critical. But at least one of those went critical, likely more. And there's our last crystal lit. And we get to warp right back down to the Mirage Tower. So we're ready to do our last few errands here in this game. I'm very excited. We're just going to go pick up the Excalibur. We'll do a few more things out here to do some testing of some world map stuff and have some fun. And then we will be heading down to the Temple of Fiends Revisited. If you've enjoyed this series, be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on the video. Leave me a comment. I do love to hear your feedback. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because I'll be doing more things like this. And you can look at my backlog and find more video series like this of other Final Fantasy ROM hacks and Final Fantasy V challenge attempts that I've done, challenge runs that I've done. I always love hearing feedback and hearing from you, so let me know what you're thinking, and I will see you next video.